Good morning, everybody, and welcome to American Scouser's morning coffee. And Mr. T over there, Mega, what's going on, man?
Not much. He's getting cold though.
No biscuits, no toast before anybody comes. Gonna get the breakfast out of the way.
No. It's just tea today.
Just tea today. Yeah, I'm just doing the
tea and gin.
Champions breakfast. Well, let's get right to the headlines. Not a big news day. We were talking about this before we started the show, but let's start with this. A couple of Liverpool-related news. We have Liverpool signing a youngster. It was the U21 since there's no 23 anymore, and he is a center back, I believe. Let's butcher some names first thing in the morning. Oludare Olunfunwa. Sounds pretty good, right? That sounded actually pretty darn good. That could be it. I thought I was going to screw that one up, but know anything about him? Know anything about the ordeal? This is kind of just like is it just a distraction from midfield, or is it just yet another investment that we do in the future?
That's so under the radar. Submarines couldn't even find it, so I think it's probably one for the future. I literally don't know anything about the kid at all, but I think we do fairly well with scouting the younger players. I think we've got a good track record for that, probably because we play young players when they're ready. If you're a young player being scouted by Liverpool and you see the likes of Trent Alexander-Arnold, the likes of Tyler Morton getting game minutes, Curtis Jones and stuff, you'd probably want to go to Liverpool thinking that you're going to play at some point if you meet the standard. But definitely an investment. It's hardly a marquee sign. If they're trying to distract the fan base from the midfield issue by signing a 20-year-old under the radar player,
big dude,
they may as well just take a tea towel and shake it in front of her faces and go, would you? Yeah, because that's not going to do it. But I hope the kid does well. I like it when we get these prospects and then they end up developing. I think that's part of the fun of supporting a club.
I think playing, youngsters has kind of helped that cause too, like in attracting some of these guys, because knowing they're just not going to rot away and they will actually get their opportunities. And, if they do well, they will come into the system. And plus, I think anytime you come to the Liverpool, like Liverpool signs you, that automatically increases your value because, we've done well in the markets and finding young talents. So it's everybody's like, well, he must be pretty good. Liverpool was into him at one point. This could also mean he could be some extra depth that maybe we are moving Nat Phillips after all, before the window is over, and get some money for him. Alan Walnuts is up with us. Good morning, Alan. And he says, put him in midfield, which, we might end up doing anyway, I think. Another news right on the same page over there. And if you're kind of checking out the news, we're kind of following all the headlines from AmericanScouser.com right on the LFC news page where you can access multiple sources. Usually, it's going to be LFC related news first, and then it's just going to be general footy talk kind of deal. So next up on that news is Romano says we have a long-term interest in Barella. Whatever the hell that means. I like the player. We did talk about sometimes how the players from the Italian league take longer to adjust to the Premier League. What do you make of him? What do you think of the player yourself? And is this just another one out there? Is it like a tactic to maybe discount the Bellingham price? I'm an optimist this week. This week, I'm wearing my optimist hat.
So. Well, I think, given what we were talking about yesterday about how rumors get started with agents and journalists looking for clicks, I would want to be sure that we're actually going for the player Barella and not just that we've changed our pasta brand in the canteen.
Good stuff, by the way.
Yeah. It's
we definitely show that we eat a lot of it. So go ahead.
I sleep on a pillow of it because my wife's Italian. But I don't know. I really don't trust Italian players coming to Liverpool. They have not worked out fantastically for us so far. So I'm very, very wary of another one. I looked at his record before we came on. I mean, he gets all these plaudits, but he doesn't score an awful lot of goals, it seems. He scores like a goal every 12 games or thereabouts. We kind of need something more from midfield than what we're getting. So we're just getting another workhorse. We're not really changing much. I would like to see us go for a player that can do something a little bit more impactful in terms of goals, whether it's assists or scoring. But yeah, it's the Italian rumor mill always ramps up before the end of the transfer window, so it could be smoke and mirrors. But if we are seriously into him, I really hope he hits the ground running, because that would be a very bad record for us if he fails.
Wait, so you're blaming the entire country for Borini now? What are you doing?
Pretty much 80% Borini, 10% Brendan Rodgers.
I don't know. I really like the player, and I think you're kind of waiting for the wrong guy, because I think the guy we're looking for is more like a Barella type. Kind of like reminds me a little bit of Genie in that sense. Just kind of like a workhorse, gonna do the dirty work, win balls, do the pressing, and cover for whoever's side he's gonna play on. That's why I feel like I'm not shocked like we're interested in a player like this. But the price tag, when I read it, my initial response is this has to be, if we are really in negotiations with Borussia Dortmund for Bellingham, it could be one of those where there are other guys we like too, I'll walk out right now kind of thing. But I don't even know if we're in that situation. We don't know if we're negotiating at all. And B, I don't think we're in that situation, because they're like, that's fine, go somewhere else. Because next, they can sell that guy to a lot of other teams and move him in January and stuff like that, or do a deal like we did with Keita, like sign him, play him for a year, then send him out. So I can see either one happening. But it's definitely like an interesting player. I'd be okay with it. Let's put it that way. If we sign a player like Barella, I don't understand the long-term interest, as it means we've been looking at him for a long time, or we're looking at him down the road, because he's 25 years old. It's not like he's like a young talent that we're like looking for down the road. I know for a midfield player, he's kind of almost approaching the prime, if you look at it that way. But yeah, I'd be definitely interested. I'd be all for it. I was excited to see the name. I mean, it's not the first time his name has popped up. I'd be excited to see that. So let's look around.
I was excited to see the name because I just thought dinner.
Honey, I was just thinking we should have some pasta tonight.
Just for a change.
So, rumors, as always, I think this has a lot of legs, but it goes back. It almost feels like we end up talking about Barcelona every morning, because they're in the headlines in one form or another, either signing players they can't play or register, or, not being able to sell players and stuff. Silva is an interesting one, because it's been going on for a long time, and he does want out. What do you make of that Silva to Barcelona ordeal? I'm all for it.
It's another soap opera, I think. For City, City kind of tend to get what they want. So if they don't want him to go, I don't think he will. But if they want to extract the highest price from him, I think they'll probably succeed in that as well. But I mean, he's fairly important for them, so they must have plans if they're even contemplating letting them go, or they're pulling the wool over Barcelona's eyes and they're telling that it's David Silva, and that all of the money has some sort of genetic regeneration machine, and they're getting a prime David Silva. But no, just the City and transfers is always like a soap opera. They're going for another centre back defender. I think he's an outside defender. I can't remember his name now. Gomez.
Yeah, Gomez. I think Anderlecht. You just talked about.
I mean, it just reminds me of if you ever saw that movie Leon the Professional with Gary Oldman, and there's a scene where he says, "Benny, bring me everyone," and the cop says, "What do you mean everyone?" He goes, "Everyone." That's Pep Guardiola and defenders. It's like. It's just another link for them. But if they want him, they're going to get him. If they want to keep Silva, they'll probably end up keeping Silva and chew up his contract if they need to, and get less for him later on, or nothing for him. So it's I don't know why anybody wants to go to Barcelona if they can't register players right now, because they look like that schoolboys kind of team that shows up for tournaments with no roster, and then all these 27-year-olds show up for an under-12s tournament.
I think, you look at all the other guys that could be playing with you, but, it's like you look at the party list, but the party is never going to happen. They're like, oh, this is going to be a bash when it happens, but yeah, it ain't happening. I mean, I think they'll eventually find a way to make it happen. I mean, with City, that's what they can do, right? They can kind of get away with that. They can say everyone and get all the defenders in there, spending money on them, because more than likely they're going to be able to move them for some good money because they have made some decent sales this summer as well. Or B, if they don't, oh well, they'll just sit on the bench and they're going to be semi-happy because we're giving him the wages anyway. The Silva thing has been brewing for a while. It's one of those, I can't stand it, dude, but he is definitely good for them and he fits exactly what they want to do. It's one of those that, it would be great to get him the hell out of the Premier League because I would see less of his annoying face, for one. And two, it would hurt City, I think, definitely depth-wise. But whenever I see something like that, the cynic in me says these assholes are going to go sign Bellingham themselves or something like that for hundreds with the money they get from Silva.
I think the Silva's that player, kind of the way other teams looked at Suarez when he was with us, in that you hate him, but you'd love him if he was on your team because he just annoys the hell out of everybody. But does a good job while doing so. But yeah, no, I could see that. I could see them letting Silva go and then paying the entire national debt of Brazil to get Jude Bellingham into their midfield. But I get the impression just from reading, like from rumors and stuff like that Bellingham wants to go to Liverpool. So maybe that might prompt us, if that rumor happens and City, that might prompt us to actually take some action with Bellingham. So we'll see how that all works out.
Yeah, because I look at I mean, they're basically, I'm assuming this Gomez guy they're getting is more like a future. What if it works out? Because he's like a really young dude. I think he's like 20 or something like that. And he's coming from the Belgian league. I can see them actually getting him signed, like loaning him, kind of an ordeal as well, getting some Premier League experience that way. I think that's one advantage like the big boys have. You can afford to do all that stuff. So the other things I see are the Werner deal is official. We were talking about it, I think, a few days ago. It was almost in the works. I think it's official now, back in Leipzig. So it's like back home again. And I think that'll be good for him. You'll go back to the old Werner that everybody was kind of like drooling over. I
hope he didn't unpack when he went to Chelsea. All of his stuff is in boxes. He's sorted. He's just to carry them and have them shipped.
If he is anything like me, he had probably just finished unpacking when he got the news that he's going back. It's like, mother. So, I mean, it wouldn't be a good morning if we don't look at some misery from United, where the Arnautovic rumors are done. And one thing I totally forgot about Arnautovic was the whole the political stuff he pulled when I think, was that the World Cup or was it qualifiers when he scored a goal? Like he made a sign and kind of like was I think it was against like Northern Macedonia. I totally forgot about that when I was like reading about him, and then they were saying like one of the reasons he ended up going to China was that actually that nobody else wanted to kind of like deal with that baggage that he was going to bring across with him. So what do you make of that? And I think the only other news, let me ask you that so you can bash that a little bit, is the World Cup is a day earlier. So
well, on the Arnautovic thing, I just remember that as well. Now what you were saying, I completely forgot about that. Fair play to the United fans, though. Apparently they were really concerned about that part. So they do have morals after all. But yeah, I mean that's done and dusted for them now. I don't understand how in this day and age of social media, why players would do anything even remotely controversial. Because just like Pepperidge Farm, the internet never forgets. It always remembers. So yeah, no. If he wants to bring his political views with him to every club, he's going to have to limit the amount of clubs he's going to go to. The World Cup thing, can this World Cup get any more disorganized? I mean, like, how many years have they been preparing for it to then turn around a few months before the start and say, actually, you know what, can we start a day early because we kind of didn't think about having the hosts in the opening game or the previous winners? It's just a shambles from start to finish. It's probably the World Cup I'm least looking forward to. And Ireland don't get to an awful lot of World Cups. So I can tend to enjoy them just for the spectacle of the World Cup itself without any huge emotional investment. But I'm really indifferent to this one, apart from the fact that it's in the middle of winter. It's just, there's so much baggage around it that it's either going to have to be the best World Cup ever, or we'll quickly forget that it ever happened.
It's one of those deals where it's something that you look forward to, right? It's like every 4 years, it's a big ordeal. I mean, Turkey is rarely in it, but even then, doesn't matter. You know, there's so much emotion. It's like the national teams. And I think maybe it's the fact that it's normally played at a time where you wouldn't have soccer. So it's like a bonus soccer, if you will, for that year, right? And like in the summer, you have the entire June. You can just kick back and watch soccer, and it's international games. It's top players. I think the drama, the whole how it's came about, the dirty money behind it, the dirty deeds even behind that, it just makes it an unlikable event overall, which is a shame because I really feel like it's kind of like the spectacle of, even if you're a non-soccer fan, I think most people can enjoy that. It's like, you know, like stuff like, you know, a weird thing you watch in Olympics where you might not watch it normally, but just because it, you know, maybe you don't put on volleyball and watch it regularly, but you know, if it's like the final and it's on, you're like, oh, there's like, you know, so much excitement, they're going for the gold, blah blah blah, you will watch it. So I feel like for a non-soccer fan, it was one of those events that really helped suck people in. I think this will more like suck people out and push people out just because of all the stuff behind it. I mean, let's face it, throughout the World Cup, this is what we're going to be talking a lot about. I mean, every World Cup or whoever hosts it, there's always a mini fiasco here, mini fiasco there, power goes out. You know what I mean? Like stupid stuff happens, but it's never dissected as much. You know, whatever happens in this World Cup, I get the bad feeling that we're going to talk only soccer half the time. And we're going to be talking about all this other stuff, other dirty stuff that's going to come out. Because you got to figure, now the league started, right? But the moment the leagues end and, you know, there's no, like, you know, you're going to wait till January for transfers. That media is going to be, media who forgot about all the dirty stuff happening behind this World Cup is going to be looking for stories. So they're going to be like, did you know how many people died as they were building these stadiums and stuff like that? And that's, I think, what's going to start to come out. So, yeah, I mean, it's on.
And I don't think none of that will happen during the World Cup because they don't want their press passes taken away when the actual things happen. They'll wait till it's over. But yeah, like it's not the most loved World Cup. Like I think every proper soccer, football fan, whichever way you want to say, approaching the World Cup approaches a grown man like us, extra grown in my case, out wide. But you look forward to the World Cup the way a small child looks forward to Christmas morning. Like you get excited. Even my dad at 70, whatever, gets excited for the opening day of the World Cup. No matter whether Ireland are in it or not. It's the biggest event.
Yeah.
Like it's the biggest single sporting event. I can't I don't know what time the games are going to be over here for us when they're broadcast, but I can't imagine the same amount of excitement of getting up at 4 a.m. to watch a game. To watch a game for two countries, I can't even find on a map. The same way I would pretty much on any of them, except maybe the Russian one. I think the Russian one was probably the start of, like, you know, I kind of was a bit more indifferent to that than any other one as well, because it's Russia, and you know they are the Darth Vader of international politics right now.
Darth Vader. So let me ask you this though, in all honesty, for a regular casual soccer fan, you think, is it just the timing of it, that people bitch and moan about, or all the stories behind it in terms of how it was gotten, how these stadiums were built, the human rights stuff? To a regular soccer fan, do you think they would care about all that stuff if this thing was in June? I get the sense that people are like more bitching about the fact that it's in January and it's out of their, messing up with their regular season and
It's in November, isn't it?
Their summer joy. What was that?
It's in November to December.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think it's that, because I think there's a novelty factor about that, number one. And number two, we've just come out of like lockdowns and all that for a year and a half with COVID. So I think everybody's sense of time is a bit skewed still. So even having any event, even if it's slightly altered, is a sort of going back to normal. But it depends on the culture. I think in Europe, fans are probably more concerned about the political stuff that goes on behind it. For the casual American fan, I know a lot of American, like USA national team supporters, who are more concerned about the fact that they'll miss games because they'll be at work, possibly. So that I don't get the sense of social justice about it over here as much as I do talking to people back home. But that's just because we're all bullshit communists in Europe, so we're going to complain about everything anyway.
I think that's part of the deal. Like, I get the same sense that most of the complaining is due to the timing of it. It's taken away from your regular league time and taken away from that extra bonus that you would get in summer, and not really all the stories behind it. I don't even know if a lot of people know the stories behind it, to be honest with you. I think in Europe, maybe there's more soccer news constantly coming out. I don't know if in the US, if you ask people, I don't know, like a regular casual fan, like knows all the, stadium building stories and all that kind of stuff. Alan says, which I did not see this, Newcastle are forced to play in a one-off jersey for Saturday's premier trip to Brighton, since all three of their kits are clashing with Seagull's blue and white. I find that odd. Like, wouldn't Brighton be like, you know what, that's fine, we'll wear the yellows, man. Or gets like some pennies.
Yeah,
like,
seriously.
what
they should have done is just done shorts and skins, just paint numbers on everybody's back and sponsorship on their chest. That's bizarre. That is. You would have thought that there was some sort of like pre-check before everybody submits their kits to the Premier League, and they can like cross-check everything. The one of the only good things I think about American sports, like I'm not I don't hate American sports. I like American football and that, but the organization of it all that never impressed me. But I do like the idea that one team always plays in white in any of the games. It's usually the home team, I believe. I could be wrong about that.
I think it's always depends on. Yeah, I'm not sure. That's something like
I know in high school soccer, like the home team,
and I think they change their jerseys a lot less. That's one of those.
Yeah.
Where it's like, or they change it, but it's like ridiculously. It's basically kind of like our red jersey. Like, it changes, but does it really? Like, it's based the base is the same. It's always going to be red. It's like different nuances and stuff like that. But I think it's similar like that over here. I just find it odd that I gotta go dig up like Newcastle's jerseys now. How can all three of them clash with the blue and white striped jersey?
I'm just gonna add the cynicism yet again. Maybe it's just like it's all planned because Newcastle want to show everybody how much money they have. We can afford a one-off jersey for our team, and we're gonna charge $120 for everybody to buy it.
They're like, bring me some jerseys, make it blue, like. Yeah, otherwise somebody's gonna get chainsawed off probably anyway if they can get the jersey to the game in time and stuff, knowing how those guys work. Any other headlines that caught your attention? It's one of those mornings that not a lot going on.
It's Wednesday morning. Like the biggest headline is that I'm gonna have hot chocolate tonight before I go to sleep.
Is that like a Wednesday thing?
No. I found the hot chocolate.
I thought that was such a Wednesday. Wednesdays I have hot chocolate.
It's very probably out of date, but I'm gonna try it anyway.
We all know you were a man of principles, Mac. I was just like, I don't care what happens, but on Wednesday nights I have hot chocolate.
I have hot chocolate. Out of date hot chocolate.
Oh man. Well, then we shall call it a day and go grab the second cups of coffee and tea. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll be back tomorrow with hot chocolate, rested maca, and myself. Have a great day, everybody.
Or a food poisoned maca. We'll see how that works out.
Some pasta and hot chocolate sounds like what's going to be for dinner. Take care, everyone.